Hello friends and welcome back to Generation Pixel, and today, well, we're going to be responding to a challenge. Well, not so much a challenge, more of a request, and that request comes from Lee the Nerdy Geezer, who asks, what's your fondest video gaming memory? Well, let me think about it and I'll get back to you after the titles. Now, first thing I'd like to say is, Lee, this was probably one of the toughest things I've ever had to answer in my life. I mean, it's up there with what's your favourite video game. But I did challenge myself to find out what is my fondest gaming memory. Now, probably what made it quite difficult to answer this question is the fact that my gaming history goes back quite a way. Almost back to the beginning of video game time. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of memories in there competing with each other, trying to force our way to the top to be number one. For example, was it the first time I ever had a console in my own home? Now yes, this is a Pong clone, so not really a console by today's standards. But imagine back in 1978 and being able to play video games on your very own television set. Now, of course, I know Pong's not a wonder game, but it was all we had. And just the mere fact that you could influence characters, or at least pixels on the screen of your television, and form at least a rudimentary game was mind-blowing at the time. But no, playing Pong on my own television for the first time isn't quite my fondest memory. Now, my fondest memory could be also the first time I played a real console with real games, the Atari 2600. Never owned one myself, but my cousin did, and we used to go every weekend just to play it. But again, despite how wonderful that console was at the time, it's still not my favourite or fondest gaming memory. So let's just scooch forward in time, maybe to 1982, and expecting an Atari 2600 for Christmas and receiving one of these. Now this wonderful device blew my mind. The ZX Spectrum, you may or may not recognise it, I'm sure a lot of you will. And without a doubt one of my favourite gaming machines, even though it wasn't designed to be a gaming machine, one of my favourite gaming machines of all time. Now, receiving that on Christmas Day still is not my fondest gaming memory. So let's go further into the future, and maybe it was when you discover a game so fantastic, so perfect, that it was going to be one of your top games forever. And as much as I love Final Fantasy VII, it is not on my, well, it's certainly a fond memory, but it's not the fondest gaming memory I have. So let's shoot all the way to modern days. Now, I know a lot of people say you don't really need this console at the moment, but let me tell you, when you finally get your hands on one of these, you will wonder what you've been doing all this time not having a DualSense controller. And the PlayStation 5 is such a wonderful console. But again, as wonderful as that is, it's still not my favourite or fondest video game memory. No, for that you have to go back to 1980, so back in time again. And my dad took me to a chip shop. And for anyone out there that doesn't know what a chip shop is, and I do know I have a few viewers from overseas, it's a fast food restaurant that served deep fried potatoes and deep fried fish or chicken or black pudding or whatever else we could fry in Scotland, to be frankly honest. But upon visiting this particular chip shop in 1980, I discovered that my dad had taken me there for not so much the glorious deep fried fish and chips, but the reason that he'd taken me there was they had just acquired a Space Invaders cabinet. And I can say without doubt that Space Invaders was, and still is, an absolute phenomenon. And no, that wasn't my fondest memory. My fondest memory came about a week after that day, the week after discovering Space Invaders in that chip shop. And the reason that a week later was a much more memorable and much more fond memory was that at the age of 7 I had popped in to buy a bag of chips, as you do, to have a look at Space Invaders. And when I did, I noticed that there was 10 credits in the machine. Now, back in the day, that was £1 worth of credits. It was 10p for a game, and 10p for a game was a treat. So to see 10 credits sitting in the machine, well, it took me back a bit. And I can recall myself quite clearly looking all around the chip shop. I was the only person in other than the people serving behind the counter, and I couldn't believe that someone had put £1 into the machine and just left. Now, still a little shocked and dazed, I decided to go, place my order for my food, and then go back to the Space Invaders machine. Another check around, still no one in sight. I hit start and I played 3 games before my food was ready. And I can remember also at the time going, getting my food, and being quite happy to leave 7 other credits in there for the next person who came into that chip shop. And that, without a doubt, is my fondest memory in video games. And it wasn't a big special moment, it wasn't a huge release. Well, I suppose Space Invaders the arcade game was a huge release. But the fact that someone had just left credits in the machine for someone to play was mind-blowing at the time for my 7-year-old brain. And it's not so much the game itself or the fact that the credits were free, it was the feeling that getting those free credits, that someone had just left credits in the machine for the next player to play for free. Well, it was fantastic, and I can still feel that very vividly today. So without a doubt, my fondest gaming memory was receiving free credits on Space Invaders in a chip shop in 1980. Now, as I said, it was Lee the Nerdy Geezer who posed this question to the community, and I highly recommend you pop along to his channel. Details will be down below. Have a look for yourself, and if you can, or if you want to, answer this question for yourself, whether you drop in my comments or throw up your own video. Either way, you're a winner. And as always, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit a like, because it means a great deal to everyone. And if you want to see more, subscribe. Subscribe button's always there for you when you're ready. But most important, leave a comment. Comments is what drives YouTube, especially the community that we're in. So, thank you very much again for watching, and until next time, cheerio!